Hello and welcome to Round the Table from the meeting point right here in Bilbao, broadcasting not only to Bilbao but throughout the world. And this is episode 37, in which we'll be talking about places of interest. But first, we have a typical mistake. Here are two words that often get confused: died and dead. Now, normally we can use past participles as adjectives. It's very common in several languages, at least in English and Spanish, to use a past participle as an adjective. So if I have a sentence like, he has broken the window, that is the past participle of the verb to break. But it is also the adjective. The window is broken. Okay, so broken is both past participle and adjective. Usually that works. However, with the verb to die, he has died, but he is dead. Okay, so in this one, the past participle and the adjective are different, which is kind of unusual, which is why people always get these sentences confused. Now, one thing you need to notice is if you use the contracted form of has or the contracted form of is, they both sound exactly the same. So if you say he's died or he's dead, if you're using the contracted form, it will always be correct, whichever one you say, because has and is both contract in the same way. So there's a useful tip for you. Related to that, let's look at a pronunciation problem. Dead ends in a D, dead. When there's a D at the end of the word, it's not pronounced like a TH. So there is a difference between dead and death. Death. The second one, your tongue is between your front teeth, making that noise. But when you say the first word, dead, the beginning and the end of the word are exactly the same, dead. It begins with a D and it finishes with a D. Doesn't finish with a th. So there's a difference between dead and death. A lot of people here in Bilbao have a problem with a D at the end of the word. People say hath instead of had, and they say neath instead of need. So focus on that D at the end of the word. It's very important in English having a D at the end of the word. This is how we make a lot of past tenses. Related to that is an interesting word. There's the word God, God. Again, this one ends in a D. If you don't pronounce the D correctly and you pronounce it like a th, you get the word goth, goth. Now, goth is the interesting word of the week. The Goths were a tribe of barbarian people who came to prominence after the Romans. At the fall of the Roman Empire, the Goths sacked Rome. That means they went into Rome and looted and plundered. There are some other words that we learned this week: to loot and plunder, which can be both verbs and nouns. So the Goths were a tribe of Germanic peoples who were considered barbarians by the Romans. Later on, we had a thing called Gothic architecture. Now, Gothic architecture has nothing to do with the Goths. Well, of course, it is named after the Goths, but it was not a style of architecture that the Goths had. The reason it was called Gothic architecture was to contrast that style with the classical styles that were used in ancient Rome and Greece. That was classical architecture, and then they invented a new style, and to emphasize that contrast, they called it Gothic. But it wasn't really a style that belonged to those Gothic tribes. It was just called Gothic architecture. That's why it's always with a capital G whenever you see it, because it's named after a group of people. Then, round about the beginning of the 19th century, there was a style of writing. You had books like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and Dracula by Bram Stoker. And because of the settings of this kind of literature, we imagine them being in old dark castles and churches and monasteries and that kind of thing. These became known as Gothic novels. So you had Gothic literature then, and it was to do with that typical style of the Dracula, vampires and monsters and that kind of stuff. Later on, at the end of the 1970s, the beginning of the 1980s, a group of people came out of the sort of punk new romantic movement. They started wearing black and wearing crosses and little coffin-shaped rucksacks and pointy boots and dyeing their hair black and wearing lots of makeup and all that kind of stuff. They were then known as Goths. Okay, so those are the Goths now, which are not the same as the Goths in the time of the Romans. Okay, when the Goths went into Rome and destroyed their buildings, they were not the same as the modern Goths. Okay, they did not have pallid faces and black hair and lots of jewellery. So that is why the modern Goths get their name from Gothic novels, which get their name from Gothic architecture, which is only called Gothic because it shows a contrast with the classical architecture. So that's why everything is called Goth. And that is why Goth is the interesting word of the week.
So, what's the news for this week then, Richard?
The big news for this week is that I've nearly finished the book for next trimester. And it is the most fascinating, amazing, wonderful book ever produced in the history of books.
Books in the Meeting Point.
Meeting Point books, yeah. It's even better than the last one. As usual, full of fascinating topics. We've got interesting articles to read and topics for debate, with quite a range of topics.
Yeah.
From things like isolation and what it's like living in an isolated community, what it would be like, why we need people around us, or indeed if we need people around us, and why sometimes it's good to be in a solitary situation. Ranging from that all the way to things like farming is one of the topics that I've introduced. We've never done farming before, even though it's come up in conversations, and I've often thought maybe I could do a whole topic. So about what it would be like, and land management, and the future of it, and how farming has changed.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
There's quite a lot of interesting things going on in agriculture, actually, and it's quite an interesting thing to talk about. So,
and very important too. We don't realise how important this is.
So that is just two of the topics that are in quite a fascinating range of topics in the book for next trimester, and that will be finished soon. So maybe at the beginning, before the new year, I might do a video on Facebook, put it on the Facebook page, an introduction, and it'll be on our website as well.
Yes.
A little resume of the kind of thing that is going in the book for next trimester. So don't forget to reserve your places for next trimester. I need to know who wants to be in what groups, because there are a few new people coming in that have already told me that they're joining us. Plus there might be a few people that were out for the last trimester coming back. So I need to know who wants what places. So book your seats for next trimester. The second fascinating piece of news is, you've probably noticed the wonderful new slow TV backgrounds. In last week's episode, we had a beautiful sunrise over Bilbao. not over beautiful buildings, but a beautiful sunrise behind an ugly building.
Quite ugly too.
So I think I might do a few more slow TV sky backgrounds. The one on this video is probably the storms and the big clouds coming in over Bilbao last week. So up-to-date, or nearly up-to-date weather images. And so look forward to lots more sky backgrounds coming soon. And was there something else that we were going to talk about on the news?
What about our office gathering?
Oh yeah, the party, he says, doing air quotes. Yes, we had a little gathering, didn't we?
Yeah, very nice.
It was good, wasn't it?
Entertaining.
It was. We had a good laugh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not many people, because coming up for Christmas, there were lots of people who had to cancel because of other activities coming up, really. People were going for office lunches and that kind of thing. So quite a few people that I thought were going to come had to drop out in the final week. But we had, 5 people? 5 people, I think. So it was quite a jolly event. We had a good laugh, didn't we?
Yeah, very good.
A little bit of wine was consumed, and we didn't have any tortilla. So it wasn't a beer and tortilla event. It was more a wine and cheese event, wasn't it?
Yeah, ham and cheese.
A bit of ham as well. So the next one will be, next trimester, I'm going to do another book club event. We didn't mention that in the previous one, did we, about the book club? Anyway, we're going to have another reading event, which I think will be the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. That will be a Friday evening in February, I think. And we'll have another wine and cheese gathering as well. So we've got all that to look forward to. So let me know what you're interested in doing and we'll put your name down on the list. Anyway, shall we move on to the topic of the week?
Yeah. So, what is it?
Places of interest was the topic.
Oh, I see. So, what kind of places did you discuss?
The main thing that most people wanted to talk about, because we were talking museums, and one of the questions was about articles in museums, artifacts, that was a word we were discussing, artifacts, if they should be returned to their country of origin. What do you think?
Well, probably yes, because I was thinking, when I go to a different place, country or whatever, I'm not a museum person, yeah, because I'd rather be in the street and looking at people, different shops, different things, yeah, that are typical from that place.
Yeah.
So if you go to a museum, like in a city, where they have things from other places, it doesn't really make much sense.
No, you're not really visiting that place, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Unless it's a specific museum, like a war museum, and then you have things related to war.
Yeah.
But otherwise...
so if you went to London, the Museum of London would be more interesting than the British Museum, because it's about London and the history of London. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And like when we went to Florence, and the sculptures in Florence are Florentine, there's the adjective, Florentine sculptures, aren't they? They were actually, it's part of their history and they've still got it, yeah. Yeah, because we were saying that the vast majority of people that go to museums really don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they replaced the things with replicas, nobody would know, because we're not experts. And if they told us it was that thing, we'd believe people.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know. And I'm convinced that the Mona Lisa Gioconda probably isn't the real thing. I bet it's in the basement somewhere.
And you can't really
safe.
tell, because it's very far, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you don't look at it from a close distance. So.
And we were saying that when people go to another city, if you go to Paris, you have to go to the Louvre and you have to see the Mona Lisa. Nobody's really interested in it. It's just they have to tick the box that says and say, I've seen that and I've done
it's
that.
a must, isn't
And
it?
it's the same with the marbles in London and things like that. Like you go to the British Museum because you're in London. But it's not because people are interested in Greek sculptures or anything like that, or Egyptian mummies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they just don't take it all back to where it came from. Yeah.
The good thing about the British Museum is that it's free.
It's free, yeah.
So you can go and have a look at something and then go somewhere else. Because it's such a big place as well.
Yeah, you can't absorb all that information. There's too much information, yeah. Yeah, you have to have a map and say, I'm going to this room today, and then tomorrow I'll do another room. Yeah, it's not always that easy for people on holiday, but when we've stayed there, when we stayed up that part of London, we've gone past the British Museum on the way into town, so it's easy to nip in for an hour and then the next day go in again for another visit. Yeah. But yeah, we were discussing that maybe museums have passed their time. Maybe they'll go the same way as zoos and circuses, because nobody's interested in going to the zoo anymore.
Oh yeah, but that's a bit different because they have like animals there. Yeah,
but in the same ways, we've got so much more communication now that we all watch nature documentaries on TV, but 200 years ago, people saw an animal. If a circus came to town and you saw lions or something like that, they would be the only ones you'd ever see. And they had no idea of the original context of lions.
Yeah.
We see lions on the documentary and they're running around and hunting and doing lion things. So for us, the contrast of that and seeing one in a cage is quite a strong thing,
Yeah.
So
it makes the opposite effect, I think.
Yeah, I find zoos and things like that quite sad, really.
Yeah, circus.
Nobody wants to see a man in a top hat poking a lion with a stick to make it angry. It's not fun, is it?
Yeah, I think that's why it's developed to the what is it called, the Cirque du Soleil, where it's people doing things.
Yeah,
and I think the future of museum might go to more interactive museums where people can actually touch things.
The Science Museum was good, wasn't it, a couple of years ago? Because there were lots of things. It was almost like it was there for educational purposes. And I got the feeling that some of it was like careers advice almost. Because there were lots of sections of technology and medicine and things like that. And the kids were playing with things and it was how to construct a wind turbine or something like that. And, do this little project and then maybe you could become one of these people. And it was all about career prospects for young children, to give them ideas of what they might do with technology in the future.
Yeah, that's much better. Another thing is now with these 3D glasses, maybe they'll have that in museums. So when you see an artifact, maybe if you are wearing the glasses, you can see how it was used. Now they have little films. Yeah, so maybe that'll be more fun, because just looking at things is a bit boring sometimes.
Do you remember that Sistine Chapel that was on the phone? There was a virtual No, the Sistine Chapel. Somebody sent it, and I don't know where it came from. It was on my phone, and you could scroll around the Sistine Chapel and zoom in, and it was like a virtual Sistine Chapel on your phone.
No, I don't. But...
And you could open it up and zoom right in and look at the details of the paintings, and you saw a lot more than you would by going there. Because when you go there, you're just in a huge crowd of people, and they herd you through. Herd as a verb, that is.
I like sheep.
Yeah, like sheep. Yeah, like cattle. And it's all like move along, no photos, no videos, move along, keep moving, and you can't stand there and enjoy it.
Yeah, and then say really in a really loud voice, "Be quiet, please." Things like that.
Yeah, they were all the security type people were just shouting at us all the time to stop talking, don't take photos, all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Don't breathe.
Yeah. So maybe museums won't be. Well, they've got to change.
Yeah.
I think.
But with technology, I think they will change.
Yeah. And I think the way people think these days is different to how they thought 200 years ago, where these people obviously can't look after their culture, we'll look after it for them.
Yeah.
forever. But no, there's stuff that's been in museums for a long time, and that people can have it back. I think.
Yeah.
I think the majority of people think that way, really, but the people that have got it don't want to lose their museums, I suppose, because once you start giving stuff back to the original countries,
Yeah.
it sort of empties most of the museums in Europe, doesn't it? So we spent a lot of time talking about museums, basically,
Yeah.
but there were a few other things. I had this list of places of interest because I was looking into where they all came from, and the roller coasters, which you
Yeah.
call the Russian mountains, because
Yeah.
I found out that's what they were originally.
Oh.
In Russia, in 17th century Russia, they used to make big slides in the ice, and people would sit at the top and slide all the way down the ice as a sort of amusement. And then they made the summer version where they had little wagons on wheels, and they made a little railway line, and they pushed people down the slope, and they went down on wheels. And then that's why they were called Russian mountains. And then they started to appear in America. They had one in Coney Island in New York called the Russian Mountain. And they developed into those crazy sort of roller coasters that we have today. And the other thing we didn't talk about was the crazy golf course. We didn't discuss crazy golf.
You like that, don't you?
I do like a crazy golf course. I think I'm sure there must be some sort of club of crazy golf enthusiasts.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I bet there's someone who's got the record for playing on the most crazy golf courses. Because those roller coasters, the Russian mountains, as you would say, there are people that travel around the world specifically to go on the different rides. I'm sure there's someone who does the same for crazy golf. Not quite as brave, I don't think. Not quite the adrenaline rush. But crazy golf is great fun. If you don't know what crazy golf is, you've done it in Exmouth, yeah?
Yeah, and in Ilfracombe.
And Ilfracombe, they've got one as well.
Yeah.
It's a miniature golf course, and you've got to go through the little arches, through a windmill, and around the obstacles and things like that. And they're good fun.
I think it's a family thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
to
very
go with the
entertaining.
children.
Yeah. We get a bit competitive in my family, like
Wow.
it's quite serious, really. Those that win are quite pleased with themselves, I think. Yeah, so crazy golf. And there's another thing that we didn't discuss was the miniature village. Or the model village. Well, there's two different types of model village, really, because there is a model village which is a village which is like a perfect village, like a utopian village.
Okay.
Is also a model village. But there's the model village which is the miniature one. And they make these little houses.
Oh, yeah.
And usually they're sort of nostalgic. They represent past times. It's very sort of agricultural activities going on and that kind of stuff. I've never been to one. There's one in South Devon. There's one down in Cockington, I
I think there is one in Is it in Belgium or that part
I think in Denmark they got a Lego one. I think in
oh.
Legoland they might have a Lego one. I heard a programme about the history of model villages, and they were saying that there was a model village, and in that village they had a model village.
Oh,
Like a miniature village.
yeah.
A miniature one inside the miniature one. And then someone else got into a competition. Someone else had to make a miniature village inside a miniature village inside another one. Got a bit extreme, really.
Yeah, how far do you go?
Yeah. But they're strange things, aren't they? Strange concept. Wonder who came up with that idea to begin with. They've been around for a while anyway. For 100 years or so since people first started doing them. Anyway, it's an interesting place to visit, and that's what the topic was all about. Places of interest. We were talking waxwork museums, we were talking national parks, we were talking about visiting country palaces and mansions and those big houses that have the gardens open to the public and that kind of thing. And they're quite interesting, yeah.
Yeah. What about those places that are not of interest? And then I'm thinking about one specific place here in Vizcaya.
Places not of interest. We're doing places of interest,
Yeah,
not
but then-
places not of interest.
They appear on television and they become very popular, but not because what they are, but because they've been on telly.
Oh, right, yeah. Or because they've been in a film or something
Yeah,
like that. Yes. Yeah, that's an interesting idea, isn't it? It's like I'm thinking of the door in Notting Hill.
Yeah, for example.
Apparently, people have to go, when they go to London, they go to Notting Hill and they have to find the door
Yeah.
and be photographed in front of the door that was in the film.
Yeah.
And
So imagine living there. You had a very nice, quiet life, and then suddenly.
oh yeah, every time you come out your front door, there's tourists outside. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, people were talking in the week on Thursday. I think we were talking about people in London that go to Baker Street to go to 221B.
Yeah.
Because that's where Sherlock Holmes lived, and there isn't really a 221B. I think they had to make a door or something like that. And another one they go to is the King's Cross station in London, where the platform 9 3/4 or something like that, where Harry Potter was. People like to go there as well. Yeah. Stonehenge came up. Medieval fairs we were talking about.
Oh,
Yeah. And fairground rides and that kind of stuff. Going to the fair and those crazy rides that people go on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's enough for this week. That's all the news.
Next week is last week.
Next week is the last week. That's quite right. Yes. So
That should be in your news.
I should have put it in the news. Yes. Next week is the last week. And then Christmas is coming up. I don't know if anyone's realised Christmas is coming. I don't think they need to be told that. We'll continue doing the podcasts over the Christmas period.
Will we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know what we'll talk about, but we'll find something. We'll be talking about Christmas. How about Christmas cake? We'll talk about Christmas cake or turkeys or something. Something festive.
Oh, maybe we can talk about a Christmas Carol.
We could do that, yeah.
Okay, let's finish this one.
Okay, that's all of it for this week then. We'll see you, or you'll be hearing us. Hopefully we'll see you during the week. And have a good week. Till next week. Bye.
Bye.